Dragna, I'm going to come to you with a very important question, a raging debate, really, but the whole concept of productivity. Whether these are large conversations or smaller ones, the whole concept of productivity in these reimagined realities continues to, well, pretty much rage across the world. But I think, if I may be allowed to point out, is that productivity is also a factor of experience.
Yeah.
And experience, therefore, is something that is very personal to me. In that, I'm going to bring this down to the infrastructure layer by saying, how important do you think the device is to really do everything that you said? And like Michael Dell has beautifully put it, I've written this down, is work is an outcome. It cannot be a journey. It's got to be a destination of sorts. Of course, there'll be multiple factors to the journey. But really, where I sit down, wherever I could, and the moment I boot up, I'm on. How important is that experience related to productivity? And therefore, what role do you think the device plays in it?
Well, that's a big question also. So devices are definitely important. I think, especially because the same devices tend to be used for personal productivity as well as work productivity. And so allowing your employees to use devices they're accustomed to is quite good. Also making sure you invest in devices that are future ready. So for example, with immersive technologies like AR, VR coming online, are these devices going to be able to handle that? Do you offer people a family of devices, for lack of a better word, where they can have a similar experience across them? So they don't have to relearn how to do something on their PC versus how to they do that on their handheld device. And so having that consistency, I think, enables continuity and flow in the productivity. I think another thing that has to be considered is collaboration tools as well, and not having too many of them. Because if you have people being bombarded from different angles, I mean, actually at one point recently, I was exposed to so many messaging apps and platforms. And I knew a colleague of mine sent me something, and I spent half an hour literally searching all my messages from these various sources to figure out where she sent me the link for what I was asking for. So that is not very productive. So thinking through devices and as well as the productivity applications that go on them is really essential to making sure that everybody has what they need in their preferred way, for hopefully, right? I mean, of course, at Dell, we talk a lot about personas. And we have found in our studies of our own company as well as our customer companies that on average, large MNC will have about 7 personas. That doesn't go to say that some companies may not have 3 or have 10, but on average, you're anywhere between 5 to 7 personas that need specific devices, that need specific applications, specific security considerations, and all that. And then offering that up to them, like to everybody, offering them what they need will inadvertently contribute to the productivity. It's just a must. So having devices, for example, at Dell, we actually even build our portfolio around the personas that we have identified so that it's easier for the buyers, whether they're from IT or HR, whoever is taking care of end user devices, that they don't have to think too much. They can just basically look at the portfolio and say, okay, well, these are my personas. These are type of devices that they will most likely need. And it'll just be very easy to then also have these people engage with these devices and adopt them so that their return on the investment is good.
Very, very interesting, because which brings me to the whole question of collaboration and innovation. You, I'm presuming, and I know for a fact, are meeting, well, at least virtually meeting in the current context, tons of enterprises, tons of organizations. How really, in your estimate, so this is going to be a two-part question, how really, in your observation, are, from a future of work perspective, or reimagined workspaces perspective, how do you see organizations kind of navigating the whole concept of productivity, which is just apart from just the tools of productivity, but productive collaboration in its truest sense, and the whole concept of innovation? That's number one. And number two is, therefore, when you see that, what do you take back and say, look, I've observed all of this, but this is my guidance to industry. Navigate this journey in this broad fashioned manner. What's your view, Dragana?
Wow. Okay, a big question again. Two big questions. So in terms of what it means to be productive versus be innovative, sometimes we can be very productive and not super innovative at all. And so I think it's important for established companies to understand how the productivity is going versus how innovation is going. And again, of course, everybody has to innovate these days because we know that there are many, many new industry entrants that are challenging, that are very quickly, almost overnight, becoming industry leaders. So instead of being in a defensive mode, it's always good to be an innovator and the one who's challenging others. So it's important to keep an eye on that goal as well. And again, people usually innovate in groups, right? Like it's
Yeah.
few innovative things come from like one person's idea, and you need a whole team, even if one person comes up with one idea, to refine that idea and actually move it forward. So having that collaborative setup, for lack of a better word, and this is something that takes us back to what's the office of the future? What is the technology of the future? How are we going to facilitate this? What is gig economy going to do for us? Like this distributed ledgers, right? When that becomes more mainstream, and when eventually tax laws and legislations of various countries catch up to technological changes, are we going to have an infinite talent pool around the globe versus our own country talent pool, right? And how is that going to be affected? So we go from very sort of micro, what is our office going to look like, to what is our workforce going to be like? Is this somebody I can hire from the other side of the globe? And how do I then collaborate with them in an innovative way when we're 12 hours apart in a time zone? And so looking at all of that is quite important. And again, I don't think it's something IT alone should be thinking about and addressing. I think this is something HR needs to think very heavily about. I think we need to understand that artificial intelligence is going to be a big helper in the future to all of us. And how do we leverage artificial intelligence not as a competitor, but as a strong collaborator and supporter of human work? And then looking at, for example, these spaces, how do we not just look at the configuration within our office, but how do we enable that office to become a smart office? How does that office respond to people inside of it to facilitate their productivity? Are we going to have offices that are maybe one big set, not big, but probably smaller than what we're used to now, having a central office that's really configured for teamwork and customer engagement and collaboration, and then have a number of these sort of satellite spaces through shared workspaces that people can go to and do heads down work with maybe another colleague, so this other colleague doesn't have to come to their house, or they don't have to discuss sensitive information in a coffee shop, or even if they just need individual productivity pod, they can get it somewhere near their home instead of commuting all the way far away to the central office. So I think these distributed workspaces will definitely become a thing. I think smart places will become a thing, having smart meeting rooms that know who is in the room and automatically pulls up whatever collaborative software is required to pull in virtual participants of the meeting, allowing them all to perhaps collaborate through touch screens as whiteboards, and then capture all of that together with transcript of the conversation that the perhaps meeting organizer can share. I don't think that's too far away. I think that technology exists, just needs to be integrated in a specific way. And for example, we make large displays. We make these smart projectors and smart boards, which can all be integrated into a smart space like this and enable that whole next level of immersive collaborative experience. And I'm not even talking AR and VR, which is also coming down the road. Yes, but soon, not too far away, actually. There's some interesting use cases that have emerged now because of COVID, because of the need for contactless. Like for example, doctors have these smart glasses that they can pull up health records, getting the exact information that you need without too much hand engagement, where you can spread the germs and things like that.